OGaccountability.com.
When we think about being fearful, different things like that, I think a lot of turmoil situations could be alleviated if let's just take it to relationship status. If a man could sit down and a woman could sit down across how we're sitting from table, effectively communicate. That's one thing I've learned. Just because you're communicating doesn't mean you're getting your point across. We have to learn to be effective communicators. Mm-hmm. And you could sit there and say, here's my heart, honey. Here's my heart, sir, not sir. Ladies, you don't have to call your man sir. But
yeah, you can get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Hey, he's misogynist. I'm not massaging anything. But when you sit down, you could say, hey, here's how I work. This is what I'm scared of in relationship. This is one of my fears, and and you could sit there and begin to communicate with each other. It would alleviate a lot of what's wrong with her or what's wrong with him. You can say, you know what, I now know how you work. And like, I've dealt with some of my buddies that have jealousy problems. And when you really get to the bottom of it, it's not jealousy. It's a fear they have of losing, somebody they love or care about
to someone else.
But it comes across as jealousy because they can't just say, hey, look, maybe I'm a little insecure in this area. And if we could learn to effectively communicate what makes us tick, not just what makes us happy, that's just it. We go into business relationships, only talking about the good stuff. And we fail to talk about, like, here are my triggers, here are areas that I hope, and just because it's my trigger doesn't make it wrong. But, just knowing this situation, I may not know how to fully handle it. And if we could get to where we could communicate like that, man, we would see a lot more peace in relationships. And this was so good. I just saw this, and I wish I would have saved it. As a gentleman, I can't remember what country he's from, and he said, 50% of all divorces, all marriages end in divorce. He goes, in America, not here. That's not like that here. He goes, that's in American culture. He goes, and here our divorce rate's like 8%. And when you can effectively communicate, it will allow you to actually listen to what the other person's saying, because they're getting what most of the time we don't listen because we don't feel vindicated. So I'm not going to listen to what you have to say because I feel like you're not listening to me.
Right. Or we listen to respond instead of actually.
Precisely. I'm just waiting for my turn to talk.
I want to talk.
Don't
you know how important I am?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
You do know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
National podcast. I'm kind of a big deal.
I like the fear in talking about the fear within the family unit and relationships. Okay. And another fear that I have, and I'm not driven by my fears. I will never be driven by my fears, but my fears do have influence on how I treat people and how I treat my family. Another fear of mine is letting them down, right? Not being that protector, not being that provider like I'm supposed to be. What are they seeing? How am I treating people, right? Am I raising them?
Yeah. They're going to mirror.
They're that 100%, right?
Mirror.
So that fear drives me to do the next right thing every time. I try to do the next right thing. I don't try, I do it. Now, my definition of right may be different from other people's, right? But whatever I'm feeling at that time is going to not do anybody, either not do harm or do the least amount of harm. And we were having this discussion last night at our house, with some things going on, and not giving people power.
Yeah.
Don't give people power over you. Don't be scared. Scared of what people think, scared of what people, worried about what, don't give them power.
And on the same token, don't give them ammo either.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't give them something to talk,
Don't give them something to talk about. Be above it all.
Yeah.
You want to really get to somebody, keep doing the next right thing.
Joe, good God. Who was it who said it? I can't remember what coach it was. Was it Meyer? I can't remember. Anyways, he said, the best thing you can ever do for your naysayers is keep your mouth shut and stick to what we've trained you to do and go on to success.
Yeah. Just go succeed.
Succeed.
Go succeed. And succeed, whatever it is, in business, career, family, go succeed.
Because they don't have that power over you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can move on to success and not get caught up in the petty dealings of the day-to-day BS that most people are caught in, that's okay. We hardly watch TV, but I watch the news. So I think Entertainment Tonight or whatever was on, and they had a bits and pieces, Vanderpump Rules, some show. I've never seen it.
Yeah, I don't know.
But they had a finale where all the people come sit down, and they were showing bits and pieces of it. And to hear these people talk, I'm like, these people are on Mars on how my life goes and how I live my life. They aren't even in the same realm. They are arguing over the most petty things in life. And I'm like, all right, that's really what y'all are splitting hairs over? But then you realize they live in a fairy tale land. They're and then of course it's TV, so it's probably real. But I'm sitting here thinking, what? This is what y'all are arguing over? And I'm just shook my head because I don't watch it, but I realize if that's your fear and what you're facing, I don't want to talk to you because we're not even. You're going to look at me like I'm a whack job because my fears are completely away from afraid that somebody's going to defame my name. And I like what the Bible says. The Bible says God is no respecter of persons. So you can take your name, you can build a big name for yourself, and we can sit at this table, and I'm going to treat you the same way I'm going to treat the next person I don't know. Mm-hmm. And we get to a position that I respect people's abilities. That is one of the things that impresses me is people's abilities, people's talents. That impresses me. How much money you make doesn't impress me. Now your work ethic may, but that stack of paper doesn't mean anything. I mean,
you know what impresses me? Doing the right thing whenever doing the wrong thing is easy. People that can do that.
The right thing's normally harder to do.
The right thing is normally harder to do.
Yeah, yep. And I've seen myself in situations in lives, and we're talking about the fear of a family, like, when my daughter was younger, this going back 4 or 5 years, I was a nice guy. I've always been a nice guy, but I had a internal fear and hatred. I'm going to call it borderline hatred towards women. And I don't know. It's not that I hated them. It's just that I didn't allow anybody close to me, but I ran through a lot of running around with women, and looking back, I'm like, I hope my daughter never saw that side of me. I hope she never saw Dad being who he wasn't raised to be and being the man that I know I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And when you come out of certain situations, that's the other thing too. Fear of returning or backsliding back to your former, and that can be with sobriety, with
yes.
and the thing is, we all recognize our triggers, and I can be in situations where I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm getting out of here. Nope. And what it boils down to is people are like, well, you can't live like that. Oh yes, you can. My mind just went blank. But whenever Jezebel in the Bible came, was it for Isaiah or for? He ran and fled and got as far away as he could. There's going to be times in your life that you got to run and you got to get away from certain scenarios because they're going to devour you, and they're completely going to shipwreck the progress you've made. And I have some close friends that I deal with and go to our church. Awesome. I mean, these people are so encouraging, but they have overcome meth addiction. Mm-hmm. Very few people do. Mm-hmm. They have overcome it. And, so I'll ask him because I said, man, what is, he goes, my fear isn't relapsing. That's not my fear. He said, my fear is falling back into that rut.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, there's a difference between I made a mistake. He goes, because relapsing comes with a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just I did a drug. You find yourself around shady people then. You find yourself doing things to get what you want, which you wouldn't normally do. You find yourself losing your job because the dope becomes more important. He said, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of getting back in that lifestyle.
Well, that goes back to talking about there's some fears that are healthy. You know, we understand, and I say we. I don't mean to. When I say we, I talk about T and I, right? Because that's pretty much how it is. And I was talking to my daughter and husband about, no matter what, goes on outside of you two, it doesn't matter it's you two. Okay. So whenever I say we, that's what I'm talking about is T and I. We have a fear every day that we know that, this whole thing that we're doing can come to an end, right? This, at any time, any moment, something could happen and the gym the school could close down. But that fear is healthy because what that does is that drives us to be better.
Yeah.
That drives us every day to make sure that doesn't happen. It motivates me. I use that fear as motivation. And that goes for sobriety too, right? I know what it's like to be in that rut, and I don't ever want to go back there again, right? So I've got to do those things. So what does that do? It makes me get rid of my resentments, right? I treat people the way I want to be treated. As long as I'm doing all those things, then I know that I won't slide back down into that.
Because when you go home at night, you've laid that part down. I've made my amends.
Yes,
I can sit here with a clean conscience and
100%,
and not be like, oh man,
And if I made my amends to you and you said fuck you to me, okay, I did what I could.
You did your part.
I cleaned my side of the street, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me want to be a better person and do those things to keep me from going back to where I was.
And he said it so good for him. Sobriety is not just not using.
Mm-mm.
He said it's the whole mindset of, and what he's talking about, that rut. He said once you get into that mindset and that rut, you think differently. You just see each side of that rut, and you don't see any life outside of it.
Oh yeah,
and
I know people that don't drink, but I wouldn't call them sober.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't call them sober because they're still living in that head. They're still living in that sick mind.
We can get an addiction to a lot of different things, food, working out. I mean, I know I was actually having this conversation with somebody we both know, and we're just deep in conversation. This person was amazingly fit. I'm talking about just got their body to a position that probably maybe only 0.5% of the whole world would have the discipline to get themselves to. And in that situation, they saw themselves as fat, out of shape, and overweight. And you're thinking, what? Because it's a degree of sickness. It's a degree of when you get into that body dysmorphia and you've got an addiction in another area. It may not, your addiction isn't to a substance. Your addiction is an internal review of yourself, and nothing's good enough for you.
Yeah, it's a self-reflection.
And I'm thinking, you look amazing. Like you have done your level of discipline. And for me, when I see somebody in that shape, it isn't just like, oh, they look good. I'm like, no, I know the price they paid to get there.
Yeah.
And
I know the industry they put in to get to that.
And a lot of, I was going to say a lot of it's unhealthy, but when you get that addiction, when you get that, then you get that fear in your mind. Am I going to look good enough? I can't eat that because if I eat that, then I got to do this. And I have literally been out with people be like, hey, let's pull in. Well, I can't eat there. They don't have this, this, and this, but we can go here because I have to have this, this, and this. And I'm like, never mind. She's like, you should have just brought your food.
Yeah.
You can watch me eat. I'm not eating cardboard. And when we get in a realm of fear and we can lay all the things aside that weigh us down, the opposite of fear is freedom.
Yep. I was going to say that earlier. You hit it, that once you overcome those fears, there's so much freedom on the other side. So much freedom.
Let me take this to growing up in a pastor's home. My dad said, he said in front of the congregation, a lot of people don't come to church because of fear of who they are, what they've done, and where they've been.
Mm-hmm.
He said, but when you come to know God the way that we choose, that sounds bad. When you come to know God in the freedom of his word and what he said and not what this church has said and this person said, that person said, when you actually get a relationship with God, there's so much freedom because you're coming with the thought process of, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do, because you're in that fear mindset of, well, and this is everybody, when it comes to drinking. Well, is drinking a sin? No, drinking is not a sin. Your Bible will not teach you that drinking is a sin. Drunkenness is a sin. So you know what the median is? Well, how much can I drink?
Negotiating already.
I don't know. I'm not God.
Right.
We know when we're not sober-minded. But when you get into that realm of true relationship, there's so much freedom. It's the same way in the supernatural always mirrors the natural. It's the same way when we overcome things in our life. There really is that overwhelming, like this no longer cripples me. This no longer holds me back. Just like the guy I was telling you about. Man, he went out and he eventually got jet skis and before he wouldn't step foot on water, but now he doesn't think about it. And I want to raise my kids or my daughter to have a healthy fear of life, but also realize if you don't own life, you own it on your terms. That's what you have to do with life.
Oh yeah.
Don't let life own you.
No, because life can run you over. Life can, life is unbiased. And that's one of the things I try to communicate to the kids. Life is life.
Life's an equal opportunity ass kicker.
Yeah, it is.
It doesn't matter who it is. It's coming.
Doesn't matter. It's coming. It doesn't play favorites. Right. It's completely unbiased, and life happens, and you just got to deal with it.
You have to.
You have to deal with it.
And don't.
You can live it or survive it.
I just shared this the other day, man, and being outside of the realm of just the church side of things is I do a lot of funerals, and Joe, I can't tell you how many funerals I have done in the past 10 years of guys I worked with that gave into that fear, that checked out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's heart-wrenching for anybody, but it's very heart-wrenching when it's people you deal with continually and you see progress made, and then it just takes a week of scenarios to throw them right back into the realm where they were at.
Right.
And it's sad because you're like, I wish, and this individual, they had called me several times. I had so much going on. I wasn't answering phone calls and text messages back. And, and I'm like, and I don't play the what if, but I'm like, I just wish I could have been there to answer that phone to alleviate some fear, because fear is temporal. If you can talk to somebody and you realize life is lying to me right now, my brain's lying to me.
Yeah, get out of your head.
Get out of your head.
Mm-hmm.
Think of how many people we have lost that if they just had that place to get plugged into, to be able to openly talk about, this is where I'm at. And I think we are hitting a place as a society that we're normalizing that. And it's needed to be normalized for a long time. Of
normalizing fear?
Normalizing being able to talk to somebody.
Yes. Well, look at the state of mental health in our country right now.
Yeah.
Okay. And look, that's across the whole spectrum, men, women, children. Look at the state of mental health, and I think that these little things right here have been a big part of it, because it's stopped a lot of that interaction that we need to have. We are connected to one another as humans.
You have to have human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
And social media is not human interaction. 95% of social media is fake.
Mm-hmm.
Fake.
Everybody's putting on all the good stuff.
Absolutely.
Not talking about the bad stuff.
Absolutely.
Not talking about being late on that bill. Not talking about, you know, the kids getting in trouble at school. You know, you're not seeing the dark side of things. You're not seeing the real.
One of my fears, one of my biggest fears. Okay, you just said something. Kids in school. I have hammered this into pay, hammered into her. Baby, you do not ever take any pill anybody gives you, even if they, with fentanyl and all this stuff out there. So I've actually looked into ordering um, the Narcan pens. I just want to have them. That is a fear of mine. And here's the thing: you can have an A+ student. Kids are going to do and try things and think, well, okay, I'll try it, and
They're dead.
they're dead. That scares the hell out of me. So one thing that I have started, even at 11 years old, is having healthy talk about drugs, healthy talk about alcohol, healthy talk about things in life. We've created such taboos when it comes to dealing with our kids, especially in this country. Now, in like a lot of other European countries, you know, people, they call America people kind of prude in some areas because we laugh and giggle about certain aspects of life that should be just as normal as, you know, being born.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been talking to her to make sure that there's an open line of communication to where she doesn't ever feel like, well, I can't talk to my dad. What is that I read? It said so good. I want to raise a child that says, oh God, I need to call my dad, not my dad's going to kill me. And there's got to be a healthy respect to realize what you should and shouldn't do. But if my daughter is somewhere, and let's just say, hypothetically, it could happen that she's like, yeah, I'll try it. And then she starts like realizing something's wrong. I want her to be able to pick the phone up and be like, Dad, I tried this pill, something's wrong. And where you at, babe? I'm on my way.
Yep.
Instead of, you dumb, you know, and
yeah, I do not want my children fearing me.
yeah,
I do not want that. That is, I want them to be able to come and talk to me about any problem, you know, and if you can't talk to me, talk to somebody, you know, maybe it's something you don't want to share with me, but I want you to be able to if you need to.
Having a source that they can get tied into is, and I think for parents, if you're listening to this, if you have a authority problem, you disrespect police officers, all authority, you're raising your kids to grow up to where they won't talk or trust to people. So if they are ever in true dire straits and they see a police officer, they see an adult or somebody, and they're too afraid to, or they won't speak up because they've learned to disrespect those people. Be careful what you teach your kids to disrespect. Don't create those fears. And there's bad apples in every group. Doesn't matter where you go. Church, there's bad apples in the Satanist groups. You know, it doesn't matter where you go. You're going to find a bad apple somewhere. And I do not want my daughter fearing me. Like you said, I don't want my kids to fear me. I want my kids to realize I've done some dumb stuff. I've made mistakes. And that's the other thing. Why as parents do we get so mad at our kids when they make the same mistakes we've made?
I don't know. I try not to. I try not to. I think I do an okay job of it. Yeah, of course that's me, you know, giving myself a grade. But I think I have focused a lot of attention on my children not fearing me. Okay, I want them if they need something at 3 a.m, I want them to be able to call me.
Absolutely. Oh God,
I want them
yes.
to be able to call me. Don't worry about me being upset. If there's a problem, call me so we can get a solution.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll come. You know, wherever you're at, I'll get there. You know, come to me with anything. And I tell Cyrus that now. I tell all my kids that. I tell Elise and Sheridan, Nicholas, all of them, Kaylee. You know, I absolutely love that kid. I love. She's got volleyball. She's got volleyball tryouts today, so I'm excited about that.
She's 7th grade.
She is going into 8th.
Going into 8th.
Going into 8th.
8th grade. Golly.
Yep. They're all growing up. You can't stop it.
So we went to the beach. You know, we were just there, and I'm always very mindful how I treat my daughter. Very proper. I always knock on the door. I don't ever just walk in unannounced. You know, she's changing. She's becoming a young woman, and but she's out there walking down the beach, and you know she's only 11. but this is the summer she developed. So I see her walking and I see these boys checking her out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I can't remember who I text. I'm like, oh my God, Peyton has cleavage. Like, oh no. Like,
Yep.
God.
It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming.
And I mean, that's a little bit of fear in every dad's mind. But here's the thing. I'm not going to be when the kid shows up, I'm sitting there cleaning my gun.
No.
Because I should have raised a girl enough to know, hey, no, we're not going to go there. And I'm gonna catch some flack for this, but we're going to be real. She may go there. So I need to be informed enough to realize that she needs to understand the measures in certain areas when it comes to sexual reproduction and things like that. Hey, baby, you want to be 16 years old and make some adult decisions. You need to realize a baby come along. Your whole life.
That changes your direction pretty quick.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I've dealt with kids, and for years I've dealt with tons of single dads and single moms that had kids early. And of course, every one of those parents love their kids, but they all say it severely unrooted and handicapped my life having a kid at such a young age.
100%.
And I wouldn't undo anything, but I wasn't able to be the parent I should have been.
No, what you see with the twins, with Sharon and Elise, that kind of changed my direction anyway, right? And you're right. Like it completely changes things. You know, you're going one way and then you're going the next. But the direction I was going wasn't good anyway, right?
Yeah.
And then whenever I had the girls, like, okay, I need to do something different because what I'm doing right now is not working.
Not working.
So that's why I joined the Marine Corps. I was like, I got to get out of here and do something with myself because I got two girls that are depending on me. You know, now I got Kaylee. She's depending on me too. And
Three girls.
All very pretty.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, your twins are gorgeous, and Kaylee's a beautiful young.
Well, I can tell you right now, Kaylee, she's got a great head on her shoulders, and anybody who gives her trouble is going to get more than they're bargained for.
See, I like that. And when you give your kids the tools, you can alleviate a lot of fears in your life. But when you don't teach your kids and you don't ingrain those things in them, you're basically just throwing them to the wolves.
My children are going to have a basic understanding of self-defense and self-protection. They're going to have it.
So Peyton's about to be 12. I told her, baby, when you're 13, you're going to start coming to the gym with Dad. You're going to start working out with me. We're going to start working. I want to get her involved. I'll probably bring it out to y'all, but I want to get her involved. I told her, you got to be 13. Get her involved and start with muscle because she's already so tall. And so, and the thing is, she is so tall and so proportioned. She doesn't realize how strong she is. So like when she's playing with her friends, I mean, she's a giant next to her friends. She didn't realize I'm way stronger than them. So I want to get her to a place when she's 13 to start like teaching her, hey, you know, like I've worked, this is how you throw a punch, you know, when you're on the ground, some basic pressure points, you know, if somebody ever, you know, I use Tim Kennedy's analogy with her. You know, if you get a guy on you, put those fingers in the back of his eye, make soup with his eyes, you know, and tell her, you know, like hold her down, put those fingers in her eyes, you know. So, but I want her to get a position at a young age to alleviate those fears of what would I do in this situation? Being unprepared in life is probably the most foolish thing we can do. This lady I was dating for a while, I was at her house, opened up her pantry, nothing in there, bro, nothing. So I said, you don't have any food in here? Well, yeah, I just Uber. I was like, what are you going to do if there's a hurricane or something? I'll be fine. I'm like, you're a millionaire. You should have some food stuck away in here. Well, you know, I have some cash in the closet. I'm like, no. What are you going to do if we lose power for 2 weeks? Well, that would never happen. It's the heck it won't.
It will. Yes, it will.
And so I looked. I said, what does it hurt? Just spend you $150 and get you a month's supply of food. Your own government asks you to have food put away.
Right.
because what they're telling you is we're not coming to save you. But being unprepared is what is going to cause that mass chaos of fear when it finally hits people. Oh crap, I'm SOL.
Right.
And that's when you get roving gangs that, like people like, well, if we go out without power and we have anarchy, I've got a generator. Your generator ain't going to do any good, because if everybody doesn't have power, they're just going to get in their car and drive around and go look for lights on, and then just sit out in front of your house and just wait. So you got to be prepared. When you can teach your kid, like you're saying, they're going to be able to take care of themselves and
yeah, live it, be independent.
I'm going to send this video to you. It's called The Difference Between Men and Women, and there's a lady, and she's in a some type of class. I don't know if it's jujitsu or what, and she's fighting with this guy, and she says to him, "Quit taking it easy on me." And I'm like, he probably shouldn't have said that. She's like, "I can handle it." Dude, he showed her so fast the different strengths between a man and a woman. It was unreal. And when he got her, she just busts out laughing. He didn't try to hurt her, but he just showed her real quick. She just busts out laughing, and she taps out immediately, and gets up, and you realize those are certain tricks that people need to learn. Women, you need to learn. There may be a guy big and bad and way stronger than you, but if you know where to get him, you know where to you can alleviate some of those fears. But I'm gonna send it to you. It's great. I mean, it is. Dude, quit taking it easy on me because I'm a woman. Wham! And when we move out of fear, Joe, and we get into that realm of just being happy, you start recognizing in other people, like, man, what do you don't let that cripple you. You're letting things hold you back.
Yeah, you start looking at people different. And it is once you free yourself from that fear, it's kind of like, hey, that person has value.
Absolutely.
That's it. That person has value too. How can I help them?
And being afraid a lot of times will keep people from recognizing their own potential.
Yes.
And a lot of people have there's great potential out there. How many Einsteins do we have laying dormant in this world because they're just afraid of stepping out?
Yeah.
And Joe, thank you so much for being here today, man. We're
always
be doing this again. Hopefully we get Matt in here.
Yeah, let's do it again. I'll get Matt in here, and then there's some other guy. There's a guy, James Green, who I think you're going to enjoy talking to. He's the executive director of VAIL, Veterans Entrepreneurs and Leaders. I think he's former Navy.
Okay, and I have a guy coming on that is going to be. I want you to be here for that. It's going to be pretty interesting.
Okay.
He retired out of. We'll get into that later.